Oh, testing, Yamusan. So, welcome, boys, to our chapter 25 videos, in which, in this chapter, we are going to talk about two topics, right? We are going to talk about balance of payment accounts, and we are going to talk about exchange rates. So, we are going to follow this content page, and we'll break down our video into four parts, okay? Component of a BOP, calculation of BOP, exchange rate, and the linked exchange rate system in Hong Kong. Now, obviously, the most important one, as I've already talked about in class, would be part one of our video, right? So you better pay attention to this particular video. All right, 好嘛，好啦，唔好嘥咁多時間啦。So when we talk about balance of payment, let's ask the question, what exactly does balance of payments means? Okay, now remember, balance of payments, it records all the payments and receipt of money of an economy. So pretty simple would be balance of payment only records money flowing into the economy or out of the economy. 係要有錢流入或者流出先至計 balance of payment 啦。Okay, now without looking into the details, let's do two questions first to illustrate our point. Here, let's go to page 6 of your notes. Okay, page 6 of your notes. Now, question 2017, MC 41 here. You see, now you see, the accuracy is not high, only 48%. 即係有香港有一半人都唔知邊啲係計 BOP 㗎，得唔得？好啦，睇住啦喎。Now, which of the following as transactions would be included in the calculation of the balance of payment of Hong Kong？嗱，佢淨係問 BOP 啫，佢冇問邊個 component 嘅，好嘛？嗱 ，here let's look at it. First, a mainland resident who owns an apartment in Hong Kong receives rental payment from his tenant. So we are going to assume the tenants in Hong Kong would be a Hong Kong resident, right? 係嘛？喺香港租樓，我估應該都係香港嘅嘛。So this Hong Kong resident is paying money to a mainland resident. 見唔見㗎？香港有錢流咗出去喎。We call this an outflow of money. When we have an outflow of money, yes, we are going to count it in our balance of payment. Okay, number one is correct. Now, what about number two? Number two, a Japanese resident sells the share of a Hong Kong firm to a Korean resident. Now, look at here. Who is paying? Korean. Who is receiving? Japan. 喂，韓國俾錢日本關唔關香港事啊？ No, it has nothing to do with Hong Kong. Therefore, it's not going to affect our Hong Kong's balance of payment. Now, be very careful, right? Now, you see Hong Kong firm here. Remember, the focus of balance of payment is whether money go into or out of Hong Kong, right? 得唔得？所以唔好見到香港就話計。Okay, now you need to think carefully where the money is going, from where to where. Okay, 好嘛？好啦，第三個啦。A Hong Kong resident buys an air ticket to London from a Hong Kong-based airline. 喂，望望先，而家有個香港人俾咗錢一間香港嘅公司喎。This is a money from Hong Kong resident to a Hong Kong company. Okay, 你唔係喎 London 喎 ，right? Remember where the air ticket goes. It's not important. The important thing is where do the money comes from and where does it go? Okay, now Hong Kong to Hong Kong. Therefore, this is not going to affect our balance of payment as well. 係嘛？冇流出流入啊嘛。This is a GDP item basically. Okay, 好啦 finally, an Indonesian who works in Hong Kong. Now, works in Hong Kong as a domestic helper. Remember, it is a Hong Kong RPU already. 係嘛？ From our GDP chapter, we know this is a Hong Kong RPU already. Sends money back, returns money to her husband who lives in Indonesia. So we are giving money, Hong Kong giving money to Indonesia. Okay, so you see, right? This is also a BOP item outflow. So answer will be number 1 and 4，就係咁簡單，唔好諗咁多。總之有錢流入或者流出就計 BOP。As long as there is inflow or outflow of money, it counts in no, it counts in BOP。係咪 GDP 傻咗啲？ Alright, now next one. Now let's look at here. The question on the next page, 2019, question 44. 好嘛？嗱，a Hong Kong billionaire traveled to Russia to watch a World Cup. Now, which of the following would be included in the Hong Kong balance of payment? 嗱，而家我哋知有個香港人係咪 ？He bought a travel insurance for his Russian trip from Hong Kong agency. So, the Hong Kong person pay money to Hong Kong agency. 喂，香港俾香港，計唔計 BOP？No, it doesn't count. So the answer would automatically be C, option 2 and 3. 好嘛？嗱，不過我哋望埋先。He bought a jersey 嗰啲球衣啊 of the Russian national team in Moscow as a souvenir. So Hong Kong person paying money Moscow, it would be Russia. 係咪啊？香港俾錢俄羅斯 ，then this is outflow, right? Outflow of money. 好嘛？好啦，跟住下一個啦。He invested into Russian football club. So when you invest in something, you pay money to something, right? So Hong Kong paying to Russia, 係咪佢講明啊 ？Russian football club, right? So we are paying money to Russia. So Hong Kong to Russia, outflow of money, also in BOP. Answer would be 2 and 3. 嗱，你見好誇張嘅，啲人真係唔識㗎，49% 嘅咋 ？OK， 唔知點解好神奇㗎。So hopefully, right? Hopefully now you understand what will be counted in balance of payment. 好嘛？ Now once we understand what will be included or excluded in balance of payment, now let's look at the details. Now, we just talked about balance of payment being an account, right? Now, in fact, it's not just one account, but it composed of 2 big accounts, okay? The first big account, we call it current account. And another one, we call it the capital and financial account. 好嘛？嗱，咩嚟嘅咧？ Let's look at the detail. All right, now, first of all, current account, or we call it CA. Basically, it records all the money. Now, let's write down here. It's non-financial investment. Basically, 只要唔係 financial investment 嘅，都係落current account 啦，好嘛？ Now, for example, the first 2, actually the first 3, you will be very familiar with. Now, think about when we are going to receive money or we are going to pay money to the other economy. Most of the time, it has something to do with visible trade and invisible trade. 係咪 import export 啊？ Basically, import export of goods and services. Right 嗱，唔好理政府嗰行先，唔好理 debit credit 住。我哋今日係咪 ？This time we only talk about the components. Let's forget about credit and debit for now. Okay. 好嘛？ So here we are talking about import and export of goods and services. Now this one you should be quite familiar with. Now also the next one, we call it net factor income, external factor income flow. Okay, NFI 記唔記得啊？ In GDP, we also talk about NFI, namely someone from the US works in Hong Kong, get our money and go back to US. 係咪？喺我哋有個美國人喺香港賺咗我哋嘅錢，梗係走咗嘛？係咪啊 ？Those will be NFI, or we as a Hong Kong resident 係咪 go to work in let's say the US for 1 month, earn their money and go away 係咪啊？呢啲就係講緊我哋嘅 NFI 啦。Now refer back to your GDP chapter. Now the biggest difference is actually the last one. The biggest difference between BOP and GDP. Okay, now the final one, we call it the current transfer, or sometimes 型啲嘅 unilateral transfer, 橫向轉移啦。Now, what is it? It refers to the money that you receive or pay without corresponding production. GDP 唔計㗎嘛 Remember, in GDP, if you do not have corresponding production, then it doesn't count. 係咪啊? But in BOP, we are concerned with money. We are not concerned with production. 好嘛？嗱，咁你有咩例子啊 ？Two examples. First example, we call it remittance. 係咪匯啲錢去海外啊 ？Most likely, maybe the 賓賓 right? Your foreign domestic helper. She usually will send some money back to her home country. Let's say to her parents, to her husband, something like that, right? When she sent the money, she wouldn't ask for any production in return. 係咪啊？佢寄個錢過去㗎嘛，佢唔會話喂我要你買翻啲咩俾我，唔會㗎嘛，係咪啊 ？So there is no production, so to speak. Another example would be donation， 係咪嗰啲賑災錢啊？ Okay, let's say some years ago, right? Some years ago, I think back in 2012 or something, right? 汶川大地震啊，係咪嗰陣時講緊 ？Okay, so whenever we have some disaster, natural disaster, then usually some country would send some money 係咪啊？啲賑災錢啊，to help as a humanitarian help 係咪啊？嗰啲賑災錢啊 ，remember those are donation, they don't require you to give them back any production of sort. Okay, 好嘛？所以啦 donation 啦。So these four would be counted in the current account. They are all not financial investment. Okay, so what about financial investment? Now, financial investment would be counted in capital and financial account, right? In fact, capital and financial account count two things. Okay, one of them we will tackle in the next video. Okay, now the two of them are first, we call it non-reserve asset, basically financial investment, stocks, bonds, or right down here. 你自己加返落去啦。Or when we talk about property, 原來買樓啊。Okay, property also belonging to financial investment. Okay, now you see in some very old questions, they will break down non-reserve asset into different components. But remember, it is already out of syllabus. So whenever you see investment, it will be capital and financial account. 好嘛？好啦，有 non-reserve 嘅，咁仲有咩 ？Of course, we have reserve asset, right? Now, but this account treat it as a balancing account. The main thing we will learn will be about these 5 columns. The 6th column on the reserve asset, we will deal with that next lesson in our next video. Okay? 因為啦 basically, it is a balancing account for the 5 of them, for all the inflow of outflow. Okay? 好嘛？嗱，暫時唔好理佢住。Let's forget about it for now. You just need to know it is in the KFA. Nothing else. 冇噶啦，冇其他噶啦。好冇？ Alright, so if it is okay, then let us proceed to look at a lot of questions. Not some questions, but a lot of questions. Alright, now next page. Here, you see, an American tourist give money to a local beggar. Right? Immediately, you see US paying to Hong Kong, local beggar, right? American tourists. This is an inflow of money. So, balance of payment would be improved. 係咪啊？應該會好咗喎 would be improved. Now, let's think about it. Inflow. Which account would it be? 我俾錢乞兒 What is it? Remember, begging is not a production. 你乞食唔係一個 production 嚟㗎嚇，得唔得啊？ Therefore, when you give money to something that is not production, this is a donation, or we call it current transfer of the current account. 好嘛？ Therefore, balance of payment will be improved. Now, what about GDP? Now, we just talked about begging is not production. There is no production. When there is no production, GDP will remain unchanged. Answer will be C. OK， 好嘛？嗱，幾好嘅題目啊！It distinguish between GDP and balance of payment. Now remember, GDP production, balance of payment money 係有分別㗎，見唔見啊？有分別㗎。Alright, so next one. Now, which of the following would produce a favorable effects? 嗱，而家唔會做呢咁嘅字㗎。Usually we don't say favorable or not. We only say would increase or decrease. Okay, a favorable effect on a balance of payment. Now, in order to be favorable, you need an inflow of money. 係咪？你需要一個 inflow 啦。So here, a citizen of country A increase their investment abroad, meaning country A paying money to overseas. 係嘛？ This is an KFA outflow. 係嘛？因為 investment 啊嘛。This is a capital and financial account outflow. Okay, 好啦。Now the government of country A abolished the tariff 關稅啊 ，okay, on import. Therefore, will import more. 記住啦 ，when you import something, you pay money out. So when you import more, you pay more money out. Okay, we have an outflow. Okay, we have an outflow of money, not the answer we want. Okay, now what about C? The citizens of country A received interest from the US government bond they hold. 係嘛？你見到啦 ？So right now, US government paying interest to country A. Okay, so this is an inflow of money. 嗱，所以答案係 C 啦。Answer would be C. But let's think about which component it would belong to. Okay, I receive interest from the government bond. I think some of you will be thinking this is KFA, right? Now remember, this is an inflow of net factor income. 嚇點解啊？好，碌翻上先。When we talk about financial investments, stock, bonds, and those kind of things, we are talking about the stock here. Let's write clearly. When we talk about KFA, we are talking about the price of stocks, bonds, etc. 我哋講緊個股票同債券嘅價格。Okay, let's say this is a 100. Okay, 好嘛 ？Now, what about after buying this stock and bond, you receive, let's say, something we call the dividend, or in case of a bond, interest of $5. Remember, dividend and interest, they are the rewards for lending services. Basically, I lend you money. You need to compensate for my service. Okay, 所以記住啦 ，the price of the stock and bonds would be in KFA, but the dividends, the interest of the stock and bond would be counted in net factor income because it is a compensation for the service provided. OK， 好嘛？嗱，所以呢個咧記住係 NFI 嚟㗎 ，NFI 嚟㗎。Now, what about D? The government of country A pays for the service, meaning A to overseas. Okay, this is an outflow, and it would be the invisible trade or service. 係咪啊？講明啊 ，consulting service, right? 係咪啊 ？service 啊。Alright, next one. An employer center in Hong Kong arranges for a maid from Philippines to work in Hong Kong. Here, important, receives commission from both the maid and the local employer. 好啦，諗啦。Here, when the part the company receives from the local employer, this would be a service provided to local people. A provision of service to local. What does that mean? It would be counted in GDP. 咁咪計 GDP 咯，係咪？為本地人提供服務嘅 GDP 咯，係嘛？So this would be a GDP item. Now what about the maid? from both the mate. Now remember, mate. Then it would be Philippine paying money to Hong Kong. And this will be an inflow of money. 好啦 okay? And since this is a, let's say 中介服務, okay, a referral service, therefore it will be in a service account or invisible trade. 好嗎? So GDP rises, yes. Balance of payment improves, yes. What about visible trade balance? Right now, we are sending someone, a person, into Hong Kong. A person, tangible, so visible trade. 嗱，如果你咁諗嘅，唔該你自己面壁思過啊。Remember, we don't have slavery anymore. You send someone here, you buy their service. So this is an invisible trade. 唔好見到個人哦 tangible 喎就 visible trade 啊，你肯定弱智嘅，得唔得？嗱，be careful. So the answer will be 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2. C. All right. Now next question here. Being a Hong Kong, 我拍落去下面嚇。Now, being a Hong Kong resident, now Mr. Wong earns a living in Hong Kong. Okay, then he married Mei Ling, who lives in mainland China. Let's see which one will not affect the balance of payment. Now, being not, remember, so no inflow of or outflow. Okay, here, he buys a wedding ring in Hong Kong and takes it to her by himself. Now, therefore, will be a Hong Kong person buying something from a Hong Kong company. So this is not a BOP item. A is the answer already. 好啦，望啦。B, he runs a sum of money. He runs a sum of money as gift through a bank to Mei Ling's parents. Mei Ling, remember, in China, right? So Hong Kong paying to China. 好啦，嗱 remember, betrothal gift 係咪嗰啲叫做嗰啲禮金啊 ？It's a gift. Gift is a donation. So this is a current transfer account. Okay? 好嘛？好啦，C 啦 ，he pays for honeymoon trip to Thailand. Therefore, Hong Kong paying money to Thai. 係嘛 ？And a trip, tourism. 係嘛 ？Tourism, it would be invisible trade. 好啦。Finally, he rents a residential apartment for her in Shenzhen. Then Hong Kong paying money to Shenzhen, which will be part of China, right? 係咪啊 And renting something, it will be an invisible trade again. 係咪 Invisible trade again. 好嘛 Is it invisible? Yes, invisible trade again. 好啦。Alright, so answer would be A here. 嗱，唔係好難啫，係咪？嗱 so far you see, if you understand the idea of inflow and outflow, actually, balance of payment isn't that difficult at all. Right? 係咪？好啦，我哋繼續啦。Now, which of the following is not included in the calculation? Now, not included in the balance of payment current account. 邊個唔係 current account 啊？First, the investment. Whenever you see the word investment, right now, US paying money to Hong Kong. Since it is an investment, KFA. 打緊啲咩啊 Investment 咪 KFA 咯。Therefore, A is not included in current account already. Answer A. 好啦 B 啦。A Japanese car sold in Hong Kong. Now, actually, this option is no good, right? Now, we definitely know Hong Kong people paying for something, right? Paying for something. Now, the thing is, where is this Japanese car sold? Now, there can be two situations. First, if it is sold directly from Japan, then Hong Kong will be paying money to Japan, and this would be this would be a visible trade, right? Now, but we also have another situation. What if the Japanese car is sold through a Hong Kong agent? 係香港代理咁點算啊 it will be Hong Kong giving money to Hong Kong. Then this would not be in balance of payment. 嗱，舊嘅題目就係咁啦。So in fact, this is a bad question. 錯唔知啊，其實我唔知 B 㗎。OK， 好嘛？嗱，what about C? A drama performance by tourists in Hong Kong. Therefore, it will be overseas pay money to Hong Kong. And performance, it will be invisible trade. 係咪啊？出面好大雨突然之間。Alright, and D, the export of China handled in the container port of Hong Kong. 呢個咪 re-export 嚟嘅咯，係咪啊？re-export 咯 ，re-export. Then we definitely know this will be an a so-called visible trade. 係咪 re-export? This is a re-export. Okay, so answer will be A, but I would say answer B may also be possible. Okay, 都有機會嘅其實，好嘛？ Alright, so next one, which should be calculated in current account, Hong Kong's current account. Let's see. A, a company in Hong Kong pays interest. 嗱，記住啦 ，interest. Okay, Hong Kong paying money to UK. Interest we just talked about. This will be a net factor income account. 係咪啱嘅喎 ？So this is a current account. A is the answer. Okay, although it is a loan, but it is an interest for loan. Therefore, it's counted in current account. 好嘛？好啦 ，B 啦。嗱 ，Hong Kong resident purchase a new flat in Shenzhen. 係嘛？睇落係咪好似啊？嗱 ，Hong Kong giving money to Shenzhen. Remember, even though house it's visible. 好似睇到層樓喎 ，but remember in economics, houses, property, they are counted as capital and financial investment. OK， 好唔好啊？所以呢個係 KFA 嚟㗎。Now next one, investor purchase some fund， 好都費事講啦。Investor KFA 都費事講啦，係嘛？好啦。D, an author in Hong Kong sells the copyright for his new book in Taiwan. 好啦，嗱呢個咧要記住咯喎。Now, sells copyright. So Taiwan paying money to Hong Kong. Now remember, copyright in balance sheet, it will be an asset item. Therefore, buying copyright is actually also counted as a capital investment. OK, KFA 嚟㗎，都係 KFA 嚟㗎。So this is a rather old question. I think new questions, they will no longer ask such things, but you still need to know. Okay, 好啦 what about next one? It should be on next page. 我睇落似係下一版啦。Okay, now here, now which of the following should be included in the calculation of 又係啦 current account 好啦，望望啦。A Hong Kong resident buys a life insurance policy from an insurance in the US. 好啦，咁即係邊個啊 ？Hong Kong paying money to US. Insurance a service account. Yes, this is current account. 又係 A 啦，中咗啦。哇，嗱 ，what about B、C、D？ 嗱 ，company in Hong Kong purchase copyright 嗱，你見到 copyright 啦，係咪啊 ？This will be KFA. Okay, resident purchase a house. When you see a house, remember this is also KFA. 係咪 capital and financial account? Finally, Hong Kong investor, investor KFA 咯，係嘛 ？Alright, so only A would be a good answer. All the others are KFA. 好嘛？好。Now, for the next one, let's skip it for now. We'll come back to here after we're done with all other questions. Alright, now, next one. Now, in 2006, now this is a very important question. My suggestion, you need to recite the idea behind this question. Many tourists from mainland buy souvenirs at Hong Kong Disneyland. Suppose these souvenirs are made in mainland China. Then the tourist spending mentioned above will be remember. Whenever a tourist buys anything, 我話知佢乜都好 ，tangible or non-intangible, they would all be counted in service. 一 定㗎，唔使諗，一定係 service 啊。Therefore, answer it must be C， 冇得諗㗎啦。唔係喎，蘇粉 tangible 啊 ，no tourist all things from tourists would be invisible trade， 唔使諗 by definition。OK，it's counted as a tourism service， 一定啊。OK。All right, so that will be it。嗱，真係要記嘅呢條緊要啊。All right, moving on. Now to the next question here, 2008, right? Which of the following should be included in an invisible import? Invisible import， 好啦，記住 invisible， therefore service import outflow。OK， 望望啦。Hong Kong citizens purchase shares on the Hong Kong stock market。喂，其實你見到 stock 已經知啦。This is a Hong Kong paying money to Hong Kong， 係嘛？香港人喺香港買 ，is it anything to do with BOP? No. Okay, next one. Hong Kong citizen buys air ticket from mainland China would be Hong Kong buying something from China, and that would be a service. And more importantly, since I'm paying for it, it will be import. Therefore, B would be our answer. Now, what about C and D? Our mainland students pays tuition fee for his studies in university. 喂，咁即係咩意思啊？ China paying money to Hong Kong. Yes, this is a service, but this will be an export of service. So not the answer we want. And D, mainland investor 唔講啦 ，investor KFA 啊，唔講啦。唉 ，all right. So now what about the next question? Next question. Actually, this is a very bad question. This is a problematic question. There should be no answer for one simple fact. A US engineer is working in Hong Kong. Then, is she Hong Kong or US? 咁佢係香港定係美國啊？ Actually, we don't know. The thing is, how long has she been working in Hong Kong? This is my question. For how long? 佢喺香港做咗幾耐嘢啊？ If she works for over a year, then she will be counted as a Hong Kong resident. But if she works for, let's say, 2 months, then she will be counted as a US resident. Therefore, you already see the problem here, right? 好啦， the part of earning deposit with a bank in Hong Kong, it would be for whatever reason, right? An unknown sending money to Hong Kong. Okay, deposit, 係嘛 ？Deposit, this deposit, there will be no, 係嘛 ？There will be no production, current transfer. Unfortunately, we do not know who. If this is Hong Kong, not BOP, right? 嗱，所以我唔知啊，真係。好啦 ，B part of her salary earning remits to her family in US. So someone send money to the US again, remittance, current transfer. 但係咪 BOP 啊 ？How do I know? How do I know? Right now, the money she pays to buy shares in Chinese on the Hong Kong stock market, 係咪啊 ？So someone paying money to Hong Kong, and we know if it counts, it will be KFA account. 係嘛？嗱，呢個我唔知計唔計 BOP，but even if it counts BOP, it will be KFA, right? Then the money she spends on buying clothes and toys in Hong Kong, paying money to Hong Kong, buying clothes and toys in Hong Kong, right? 係嘛？既然佢去買嘢啦 ，it would be a so-called visible trade， 係嘛？即係買實質嘅嘢嘛。So because the problem we do not know who she is, there can be no answer. 唔應該有答案㗎。Okay, now I'm not blowing water. EAA actually they have indirectly admitted their own mistake. How do I know? Let's jump ahead. Let's skip ahead to the next page and look at this question. 2015, question 43. Now you see 54%呢人真係唔識做 BOP 㗎，唔係講笑㗎。Okay, a lecturer from the US 係嘛 has been working for 10 years. What is the difference between this question and the question just now? 10 years, meaning by definition, he would be in Hong Kong RPU. So we're sure he would be counted as a Hong Kong resident for our purpose. 嗱，所以冇咗頭先問好嘅問題啊，係咪啊？ Now, which of the following would be included in current account balance? The money he gave to his wife in Hong Kong. Now, a Hong Kong person giving money to someone in Hong Kong. 香港俾香港計唔計 BOP？ 唔計 ，not one. Okay. Now 2, the money he used to buy shares listed. So it would be a Hong Kong resident paying to US, but stock market, right? So it would be KFA. Number 2, not current account. So answer would be 3 and 4. The money he donates to a charity in Africa. So Hong Kong person paying money to Africa, and this would be a current transfer item. 係嘛？因為 donation 啊嘛。Finally, money he spends in visiting the US. 係咪啊？ Hong Kong to US visiting. So it would be tourism. 係嘛？ It would be tourism and tourism. It will be invisible trade. 好冇 ？Answer 3 and 4。嗱，有進步嘅考評局係咪 ？For 10 years 係咪 ？So the last question is actually a problematic question， 係有問題嘅，你答唔到㗎，得唔得 ？Alright， 好啦，翻轉頭啦。Here. Let's go back to the previous page and look at question 2010, question 49. Okay, 好啦， now which of the following should be included in the calculation of invisible import？ 嗱，點解次次都問 invisible import 我都唔知，係咪？嗱 ，the money spent by a Hong Kong citizen buy ticket at concert held in Macau. So Hong Kong giving money to Macau. And a concert ticket, concert would be a service. So it would be a import of service since I'm paying money, right? So A, A would be the answer. Now what about B? By a Malaysian tourist. 好啦，咁即係今次係 Malay paying money to Hong Kong. Also buying service, but since we are receiving money, this is an export of service. Export of service. 好啦 ，money spent by a Hong Kong citizen on donation. 好啦 ，donation 你即刻會諗到啦。This is actually a current transfer item, not import item. Okay, and finally, money spent by Hong Kong citizen purchase renminbi sovereign bond. 好啦，見到 bond 即係咩意思啊？即係 KFA 咯，係咪 ？This is a KFA item, not in invisible import item. Okay, so answer would be A here. 好啦。我哋望一望12年啦，頂。Let's take a look at 2012. Now, which of the following is an invisible import？ 啊，又係 invisible import 啦，好嘛 ？In Beijing, a Hong Kong tourist 係咪啊 ？Paying tickets to Beijing for a museum. This will be a service. 啱喎，係啊 ，service 啊，啱啊。Okay, so A already 即係次次都 A 喎，咁啱次次都 A 喎。But you see, right? Only half of people knows the answer. Okay, now what about B? B, mainland resident consults a doctor in Hong Kong. So mainland paying money to Hong Kong, and this would be a service, but this would be an export of service, not import of service. Okay, 好啦 ，C 啦，billionaire donates money, donate 即係 current transfer 啦，係咪啊 ？Current transfer, not invisible import. And finally, purchase raw materials. So whenever you see raw materials, this will be a visible trade. 呢個 visible 㗎，得唔得 ？Not invisible. Raw material, you can touch them. Okay, tangible. Therefore, answer would be A in our case. 好嘛？答案咪 A 啦。 Alright, so here, well, we actually finished with almost finished with MC. Okay, let's look at here. 好啦，跳兩把啦。2018 question 44嗱，落咗 report 嗰啲條係你發覺啦 ，only 46 people get it correct 嗱，but it is not difficult 嗱。The Hong Kong Tourism Board organized the Esport Music Festival. Now, foreign esport players and K-pop superstar participated in the festival, and they attracted both locals and tourists. OK 啦，咁睇下發生咩事啦。First, increase in private consumption expenditure. Yes, because it attracted local people, 係咪啊？本地人去啊嘛。They go there, buy ticket, right? So we as a citizen go buy ticket. That would be our private consumption expenditure. Yes, local. 好啦，下一個啦。Increase in export of service. 係咪 ？Remember, attracted tourists. 係咪啊？喂。Whenever you see the words tourists, you know it will be an export of service. So 2 would also be correct. Now, what about 3? A decrease in the balance of payment deficit in Hong Kong. Do you know? Actually, remember, when we talk about balance of payment, we have quite a lot of components. For example, we have visible, then we have invisible, then NFI, then we have the current transfer, and finally we also have the KFA, the non-reserve asset, right? 係咪寫清楚先 ？Non-reserve. Do you know anything about visible? Net factor income, CT, non-reserve. Do you know anything about that? No. So we do not know whether it would decrease the deficit. 係嘛？嗱，首先啊 we do not know anything about other components. Second, we also do not know whether in Hong Kong the balance of payment is a deficit. Okay, in fact, I think in Hong Kong it's actually not a deficit. We're having a surplus. Okay, so for these 2 reasons, number 3 is wrong. 係咪兩個原因錯啊？ Okay, so 1 and 2 only. 1 and 2 only. 好嗎？ 1 and 2 only. 好啦 so now next one we have already looked at. All right, now let's look at some long questions and then we go back to do some graph readings. 好嗎？好啦，望望呢條啦。Here 嗱，上面唔使理啊。Now it says they are proposing to finance the 三跑啊 ，OK, a third runway, OK. 好啦 ，Proposal A, the government increase the income tax, or Proposal B, a lump sum fee on every departing traveller. 總之你喺機場飛嘅就要收離境稅 ，meaning like this. OK, now we need to discuss the effect on a current account in the balance of payment of country H. Okay, so let's see. For Proposal A, the government increase income tax. So think about it. When income tax increases, our disposable income (YD) decreases. 好啦，喂，少咗錢喎。Since we have less money, so we'll be buying less from overseas. That would be import would decrease. 係咪？因為我哋少咗錢啊，買少咗人哋嘅嘢啊。OK, import decreases. Therefore, OK, therefore, our actually BOP. Now, there are 2 ways to answer. If we are having a deficit, right, the deficit would go down. 係咪？我哋而家冇蝕咁多， or our BOP surplus would go up. 係咪？ Because import is an outflow of money. So now we are paying less to outside. 俾少咗錢出去啦，係咪個 deficit would go down? Or the surplus would go up? OK, 得唔得？ So this is Proposal A, nothing too special. Now, what's special is Proposal B. 好啦 ，Proposal B, remember, the lump sum fee on every departing traveller 任何人經過都唔得。Therefore, the cost for both local outbound tourists 係咪啊？即係我哋 country H。The country H local tourists wanting to go outside and foreign inbound tourists, people from overseas coming to country H. The cost for both groups of people would go up, meaning number of both local outbound tourists 好啦，我出去旅行 meaning import of service 係嘛？我出去旅行係 import 人哋嘛 and foreign inbound tourists 好啦 inbound tourists someone coming to my place for tourism giving me money export of service would go down. So both import and export will go down. So the effects on BOP will be uncertain. Like嚟多次得唔得？ This lump sum fee is effective on everyone, including country H own people. If they want to go out for tourism, they pay money. 係咪個 cost 高咗啊 ？So the number of local outbound tourists 係咪 country H going out would go down. But the same can be said for people coming to country H. 佢哋嚟都要走㗎嘛，係咪 ？When they leave, they will be charged this departure tax, right? 係咪 Now therefore, you will see that both import and export, 係咪 both import and export would go down. 兩個都跌晒，咁即係升定跌啊 ？How do I know? Right? How do I know? It will be uncertain. So you see, right? When we talk about components of BOP, 呢個緊要㗎。呢條 video 點解咁緊要啊 ？Why is it so important? Because it appears in long questions, and we are not done yet. The worst is we are not done yet. Here, let's go to the next long question. Again, 又係 long question 啊，得唔得啊 ？Now referring to the view of EU official， 嗱麻煩你跟題目啊。There are 4 boxes, but you can only refer to EU officials. If you refer to other boxes, you will get 0. 你自動會零分㗎，得唔得？唔該你睇題目啊。OK, EU officials. Now, which 2 components of current account? 你見題目真係會咁問㗎。They really will ask specifically the component. So you need to recite the table we just talked about, the components. You need to know the components very by heart, very familiarly. 係咪 You need to familiarize yourself with them. 一定要，好嘛 Now, which 2 components may be affected? Now, explain our answer. Now, EU says may require visa to visit or to work 嗱，你一見到 visit 同 work 咧，你應該自己要有you need to be sensitive, right? Now, because of the visa limitation, so for one 係咪 we have 2 ways 係嘛，有2個 component. For one, okay, of Britain 係啦 ，Britain 啦 ，okay. For one, okay. Now the visa requirement now will be harder to travel to EU 係咪啊 So there will be less British tourists to EU country 係咪而家難咗嘛 Therefore, the import of service would go down 係咪 goes down 係咪而家佢冇去咁多旅行啊 Import of service goes down Therefore, the import of service goes down. Yes, invisible trade balance goes up. Okay, the component invisible trade balance goes up，係嘛？而家少咗 outflow of money 啊。OK， 好嘛？嗱 ，so we have to deal with visit. What about work？ 好啦 ，work 一樣啦 ，visa requirement harder to work in EU. So less factor income brought from EU country. NFI goes down. 係咪？咁啊 NFI 會跌咯。少咗英國人 fewer British people going to EU to work and bring money back to Britain, right? 係咪啊？少咗英國人去歐洲做嘢，咁咪少咗錢帶翻嚟英國咯。Okay, so NFI would go down. 係咪 invisible trade, invisible trade goes up. 係咪 NFI goes down. 得唔得？ All right. So this would be so you see when we talk about component of GDP, right? Component of GDP, we are talking about long questions. Therefore, you need to know this topic by heart. 一定要好熟。如果唔係，我幫你唔到，得唔得？ All right. So yes, I think we are done with the non-graph questions. Now, let's look at 3 questions of graphs. I think that will be back in page 3 or page 4. 我唔知我拍咗太多 enter 啦。Page 4 of your notes, most likely, right? 2003, question 48. Now, let's look at this graph. According to above diagram, from year 4 to year 6, 我哋淨係睇4至6啫。So what happens is that 好啦，睇下邊個答案先。Here going down. So volume of import decrease. Is that? You see the answer? No. Look at the graph again. 嗱，次次都錯呢啲啊，好嗎 ？Rate of change. As long as the percentage is bigger than 0, positive. 呢度啊，4至6啊。Although it looks like going down, but because the percentage has been higher than 0, 大過0啊，得唔得？ It is higher than 0, therefore it is still increasing. Both volume of total export and volume of import are increasing. Therefore, answer is C. 好嘛？好啦 what about A and D? Has suffered from visible trade deficit. Do you know? You only know the change, right? But do you know anything about the base number? No. We have no idea about the base number. 你就係知道 you only know import percentage-wise is growing faster than export. But you don't know anything about base number. So trade deficit, we do not know. Trade deficit has improved. Again, we do not know because we don't have base number. Answer will be C here. 好冇？嗱 for whatever reason, EAA decided to have the same type of question in 2018, only to mess it up this time. So let's look at it. 佢自己唔知點解啊，會搞錯咗自己。Now, I think it would be page 11 of your notes. Page 11 of your notes. 2018, question 42. Now, this is a deleted question because there is no answer. Again, you are given a graph, a growth rate. 又係啦, you only know growth rate. The only thing we know is that percentage-wise, import grows faster than export, right? We know nothing about the base number. So let's see. 好啦，嗱佢有講嘅喎。Country A reported a trade surplus. Therefore, we know definitely export bigger than import. Value, right? Value of export bigger than the value of import. All right, but we know nothing about the number. So based on the graph, what can we conclude? Now, first, the trade balance was in deficit. 唔會啦，啱啱先講完 surplus 點會 deficit 啫 ？Right? Contradiction. Okay. Now, D, current account deficit is increased. Again, do you know anything about current account deficit or surplus? No. So A and D not correct. 好啦 B and C, there is a similar problem. Okay. 好啦 B 啦 the volume of import increase faster than that of export. Now, the percentage of increase in import is bigger than the percentage increase in export. What about volume? In fact, we do not know. 你係唔係啊 percentage 大咪即係快啲咯 Let me give you one example, very extreme example. Let's imagine export being this amount. Import used to be this amount. So this is a trade surplus, no problem, right? Trade surplus. Now it becomes, so what is the percentage change? 1% increase. Import becomes this. So it would be a 100% increase. Do you see? The percentage increase in import is much bigger than the percentage increase in export. But what about volume-wise? It is a 100% increase. It is a $1 increase. Do you see the dilemma here? They are asking the volume. Do you know anything about the volume? No. Okay, therefore B is not correct. Now what about C? Visible trade surplus decreased for the same reason. We don't know whether the surplus have increased or decreased because we have no idea about the base number. Okay, therefore both A, B, C, D are not answers. The reason why this is deleted. So you see, sometimes you are not the only one to mess up. Sometimes EAA would also mess up. Okay, but so remember, right? When you don't know anything about base numbers, okay, don't know anything about base numbers, be careful when you're only given percentage. It can be quite dangerous. Okay, now one last word before we look at the final question will be here. 好啦，嗱，今次我講 trade surplus 啫嘛。Now, what if this questions becomes trade deficit? Then I would say there would be an answer. If this becomes a trade deficit, then this case, 係嘛？ This case would not be the same. 係嘛？嗱，所以記住真係㗎。Whenever you're not given the base number, you need to be very careful and think carefully. What would be the possible base numbers, okay, and the possible percentages, okay? 好嗎？ Therefore, this one deleted. Okay, one last question, and we'll end our video here. One last question will be the previous page, 2020 新鮮滾熱辣啦，2020年啦。Okay, now you are given a graph like this. So A1, describe the change of current account data in the US. How do you describe balance on goods? Okay, balance on goods. 負808變負921啊嘛，係嘛 ？Decreased by 睇幾多啊？91減91減8 by 82 right 係嘛 ？By no 83 by 83係嘛？仲減嘅啫陰公，重點 decreased by 83 US dollar billion. Now what about balance on service? Balance on services increased by 幾多啊？255,269 increased by 14 USD billion。弱智都識做啦，大佬，咪玩啊，係咪啊？OK，嗱，so you see sometimes, right? LS type of question, but don't spend too much time. No need to write an essay. In economics, just say increase by how much, decrease by how much. That would do it. OK， 得唔得？唔好搞咁多嘢啊！好啦。Based on the above sources, we can conclude the current account deficit in the U.S. necessarily increased. Do you agree? Obviously not. Okay? No. For one good reason. Because current account, remember, we have visible, we have invisible. Now, these two we know. 係咪？而家我哋知兩個啦。The net change is a decrease. But what about NFI? What about current transfer? Do you know anything about these two components? No. Uncertain about NFI and CT. Therefore, we are uncertain about the current account changes. Okay? 好嗎? Now, not exactly a difficult question. Okay, so you see, we spent a very long time talking about the component of BOP. Really, really 認真啊，好唔好啊? Spend a lot of time to familiarize yourself with all these components. 佢真係會問㗎 especially current account. Okay, so we are going to see each other again in our next video when we talk about the mathematics behind balance of payment, the calculation. Okay, so until then, I see you again next time. See ya.